Well, I just ended up dipping my hair in my tea. So this morning is going pretty great. Hi, I'm Lauren. Welcome to the channel if you're new here. If you're not new, thank you for returning. Today we're talking foundation. You know, I don't do a whole lot of wear tests or foundation reviews just solely on one foundation because I don't know. I don't know why not, because I love them. I love foundations. I have a huge array of foundations, so many options to choose from every morning that it's overwhelming. And I still picked up a new foundation. And you can probably tell from the title what we're gonna be talking about today. And that is the Fenty Eaze Drop Blur Foundation Sticks. And I will say, I was a bit nervous to pick these up because I historically have not had good feelings about stick foundations. I have very dry skin, and the majority of stick foundations that I've tried in the past have definitely like stuck to my dry patches, tended to look really cakey, and just overall not super flattering. But I picked these up because one, they were only $35, which is actually a really good price for a foundation. These days, I feel like if you find something for less than $38, $40, then that's a good deal. But also, I really liked the claims that they were making, and I wanted to see if it was accurate at all. So their claims were saying that this blurs and melts into skin, and it sounded good. It sounded really good. It's a light to medium coverage. You get 9 grams of product for $35. It just sounded like a good deal. So not only did I pick up a color that I thought would fit my face really well, I picked up a color I thought would work really well as a bronzer contour because, I mean, they were both cream products. I'm like, why wouldn't it work, right? They're calling it a foundation, but I bet I can make it work as a bronzer. So these are the two items that I have been trying out. Now, I ended up going into store to pick up the foundation because I could not figure out what color match I was online. Could not figure it out for the life of me. Even when I was in the store, I ended up picking up one color. I was like, this looks like the right match. My hand was covered in swatches, and I put it back and I got a different color based on the photos online, even though I was in person. But just the photos online made some of them look so much darker than they looked in person. It was very confusing. But what I ended up going with was shade 4, and this was described as light to medium with cool undertones. And I was like, okay, I am never medium, never on the medium scale, but this one just, it seemed to be the best match. Now, for the bronzer contour color that I picked it up in shade 11. This one was described as medium with neutral undertones. Is it neutral undertones? We will get into that. I think what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna apply it on camera so you can kind of see it in motion. And then I also filmed a wear test. So I wanted to show you how it wears throughout the day, what my feelings were throughout a couple points during the day. And then we're gonna come back and talk about my final thoughts about this foundation because I have been trying it at this point for about a week, and I wanted to really give it a chance. I wanted to see, is this gonna be dry skin friendly? Are these colors gonna work for me? Is it worth $35? I don't know. Let's try it out. Let me show you what it looks like when I apply it. And yeah, and then we'll get into the wear test and final thoughts. Okay, so we're a little more closer than usual, but I wanted to give you the full effect. Now, I will say I always use a face primer. I like using face primers, and I've tried a couple different face primers with this foundation, and anything water-based seems to work pretty well. So the one that I currently have on my face is the Smashbox Primerizer Hydrating Primer. This little guy, it's almost empty, I swear. And that's the one that I've been choosing a lot lately to go with this foundation because it works really well. So this is color 4. And guess I'm just gonna go in, stick it on my face like I normally would, which my face could use some foundation right now, so I don't hate this. Now, again, they're saying that the coverage is light to medium. And I do have some thoughts about that, I do. But I have been going in with my beauty blender. You can use a brush, you can use your fingers. They kind of recommend any application. I don't like using my fingers. to apply foundation. I do with the Ritual Decay foundation because it just sits better when you use your fingers. It's very weird. But for everything else, I pretty much use some sort of sponge. And this is after applying one layer. And I feel like you can already see that it's evening out my skin in a lot of places, with the exception being my T-zone. Now, again, they're saying light to medium coverage, and I just feel like it does not provide a lot of coverage in the areas where I really need it. So you can definitely see my pores very visibly, I feel. They don't do it doesn't do a great job covering those parts up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in with a little bit more in my problem areas, because I think it looks so beautiful on the rest of the skin. It blends out so well, but this T-zone, my T-zone, it just needs a little more help. So going in with 2 layers just around my T-zone, I think does help quite a bit, but I'm still seeing pores. You're still seeing some color peek through. So at this point, what I do is I do go in with a little bit of concealer. So I'm just gonna go in with the Natasha Denona Hy-Glam Correcting Concealer in C1. I have been liking this one quite a bit. And I always do concealer under my eyes and not foundation. So I'm just putting it, again, in my problem area, my T-zone, where the pores are still shining through a little bit, and just to get a little more coverage. Because I feel like once I add this step, everything looks great. So now that I have my concealer on, I'm just gonna go do my regular routine, and I'm gonna add a little bit of powder, again, in my T-zone. That's where it needs powder. It just really helps everything set. And I'm gonna be using my Hourglass, what are you, vanishing powder, something like that. Another product in my project pan that I have been trying to be good about. And this really is a beautiful powder. I love the Hourglass powder, it's so good. Okay, so we have powder on. Next, let's go in to the bronzer shade, if you will. Now again, this one is this one, shade 11, and it is medium with neutral undertones. It is really hard to find something that is truly neutral, at least I think it is. And this one I feel like pulls a little warm. Let me show you. Let's see. That is warm. It doesn't look as warm here, but I even noticed when I was swatching it in the store that it pulled yellow. It is warm. It is warm. I will say though, that if you can find the right color match for you, it works really well as a bronzer. This formula is absolutely gorgeous. I completely agree with their claims that it melts into the skin. It is a really, really beautiful formula that just like sinks into your skin. It doesn't sit on top like a lot of stick foundations. It's just, oh, look at that. It works so well as a bronzer. I wish this color was a little more neutral. I really do. But it's still, I think it still looks pretty good. Okay. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put on some highlighter because I have to have some highlighter, and maybe a lipstick or something because I feel like I need something to jazz up the look a little bit. And let me show you what happened during the wear test so you can see how it wears throughout the day. Then we're gonna come back together and just overall talk about my feelings about this foundation and if I would recommend it to you. So I have everything on my face. I also have the bronzer stick, well, the bronzer shade on. I think you can probably tell it is a little bit yellow for what I normally like, but here's what it looks like up close. This is the second time I've used this stick, and I can tell you right now that I don't think the coverage is great in my T-zone because the pores are pretty obvious. You can see the pinkness kind of peeking through, so I'm curious to see how it lasts throughout the day. I do have a little bit of concealer and I have a little bit of setting powder on my T-zone. I decided just to go in just with my everyday makeup routine to see how well the stick's handled. And I like the coverage on the rest of my face quite a bit, but it just worries me about my T-zone. T-zone doesn't look 100%. So I will be doing a check-in in the middle of the day and at the end of the day to see if it lasts throughout the day. So yeah, we'll check in then. Okay, so I wanted to give you a quick update on how everything is wearing. It is 4 o'clock. I've had both products on since about 7:30ish. So it's actually not bad. It actually looks better now than it did in the morning. It's like it's settled into my skin because I feel like you can see the pinkness around my mouth, which is pretty normal for this time of day regardless of what I have been using. You can see the pinkness on my nose, but I don't think it's dramatically worse than it was this morning. And I mean, you can still see my pores and stuff, but it's not bad. And I feel like the bronzer shade, it's not actual bronzer, but the bronzer shade actually looks pretty good still. But yeah, overall, so far, like pretty impressed on how it's been wearing throughout the day. Last check-in. It's 11 o'clock at night, so I'm about to take all my makeup off, but I'm actually really impressed with how long this stayed on. Obviously, there's wear down, especially in my T-zone area. That's pretty normal for me. That's where I'm the oiliest, but I think it's not that bad. There's like definitely red in my T-zone, but everywhere else I feel like is really good. And it didn't wear off in like a patchy kind of way. It wore off in a really great way, you know? Like it still looks pretty good. Like I look tired. It's 11 o'clock. I'm tired, but at this point I've had it on my face for over 12 hours. And I feel like that's actually pretty impressive. I'm definitely getting pretty shiny. I'm not oily, but I get shiny at the end of the day. So it's worn down quite a bit, but it doesn't look patchy. It just looks like it faded pretty naturally. So pretty impressed overall by the wear time. Okay, so we've applied it on camera. I've gone through the wear test. Now let's talk about what my overall thoughts with this foundation is. Do I recommend it if you have dry skin? I'm gonna say yes. I am kind of shocked because I did not think that this was gonna go this way, but I just think it truly does what it says it does, and it sinks into the skin and it feels really beautiful. Would I recommend getting an additional shade as a bronzer? If you can find your shade. But let's talk about the shade range. Do I feel like cool is cool, neutral is neutral? I think you probably know the answer. I don't. I think Fenty has always leaned a little bit yellow on me, and it continues to do so. So even though the foundation I used was described as cool, I would say that one was more neutral. It definitely wasn't warm, but it definitely wasn't really truly cool. Now, color 11, which is described as being neutral, that was just warm. It was straight up warm. It was very confusing when I was watching it because I was like, this just looks so warm. Is it just me? Is it the lighting in Sephora? I don't know, but it was very confusing. And even though I really do like this formula as a bronzer, I think it works perfect as a bronzer. I don't know if this color is my favorite. I'm gonna still use it, but I don't know if I absolutely love it on me. I just tend to like more neutral leaning bronzers because I just have neutral undertones in my skin. There's not much of anything going on there. Overall though, I would recommend picking this up. It's got a pretty huge shade range, so chances are you'll find a shade that works for you for foundation at least, but I definitely recommend going into stores and swatching them there because what you see online and what you see in stores, I feel like don't match up 100%. I originally was gonna go with color 2. I thought that one looked the best online. Then when I got into the store, I picked up color 6. I was like, this is it. And then I ended up falling somewhere in the middle with color 4, which ended up being perfect. I really do like this color. I like how it wears throughout the day. I like that it wears down, but in a very non-noticeable way. So it's not flaky, it's not patchy. You can see it wearing down in my T-zone area throughout the day, but it lasts for the important part of the day. So this is not something that I would wear in like extreme heat or if I was going out dancing. This is probably not the foundation that I would wear because I don't think it would last me through the night, but it lasts me through work and it looks really beautiful and hydrating while it's on my face, which I really like. I like a little bit of a dewy look to my foundation, and I feel like this really does provide a little bit of a dewy glow. Overall, I was shocked and surprised by how much I have been liking this foundation. I've been using it quite a bit lately, and it just feels so nice on your skin, and it just sinks into your skin throughout the day in such a beautiful way. It looks really nice, and it doesn't look like you're wearing a bunch of foundation. Like, it looks good. It looks like your skin, but better, but a little bit better coverage. Again, I will say, I think it leans more on the light range than light to medium, but that's just for me. I have pores, I have some color in my T-zone. It's a little difficult to hide sometimes, and I don't think this does the best job hiding it, but whenever I pop a little bit of concealer on top of it, it works fine. So that is just my opinion on the Fenty Eaze Drop Blur Sticks, which, whew, that is a name. I would love to know if you've tried these. What are your opinions? Do you like these? Do they work for your skin type? I'm really curious because I've watched a handful of reviews and now I feel like no one is talking about these anymore, but I actually really like them. So let me know what you thought of them down below. I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!